So usually when I'm on an airplane, they put me next to an absolute unit or a crying baby. There's no in between. I never have good experiences on airplanes, right? But a few weeks ago, I boarded my flight back to New York from Italy, and we had stayed up all night the night before. It was our last night. We may have overindulged a bit, so I was definitely not, at 100%. I thought I looked pretty rough, but I sit down, I look to my left, and there's this really pretty girl, like, smiling at me. And all I said, I was like, hey, if you need to get up at any point, just wake me up because I'm going to try to get some sleep. I'm, like, not feeling too well. She laughed. Next thing you know, we started talking for hours. I swear, like some shit out of a movie. She was like the funniest, sweetest little Italian girl who's studying in the U.S. And we had all this crazy shit in common. Like, she was from the town that my family's from in Italy. It was just like, this type of shit never happens to me, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I finally met the one. Like, no dating apps required. This is fate, right? And if you saw my dating app video, a goal of mine this year was to meet a girl naturally, not online. And at this point, I'm like, holy shit, I think I did it. And, remember, running on no sleep, out drinking the night before. So I'm like over here pinching myself because I thought I was dreaming. Like, that's how perfect this girl was. And to make things better, and I don't know, just because I never fly international, but usually domestic flights, there's 3 to a row, and it was just 2. It was like just us. So it literally felt like I was on a date with this girl, and we're, sipping red wine. We watched a movie together. Like, by the end of the flight, like, we were dead ass cuddling. She was like asleep on my shoulder, and I was like, this is too good to be true, right? So this 13-hour flight that I thought was going to be the end of me flew by, and all of a sudden we're landing, and at this point I'm ready to marry this girl. Like, I swear to God. And for some dumbass reason, I asked for her Instagram instead of her number, which, by the way, is the wackest thing I think you can do as a guy. Straight chick repellent. Always ask for the number, but, like I said, I wasn't exactly at 100% here. But, she gives me her Instagram. I'm going through customs now. I said goodbye, I hugged her, and her Instagram was nuts, dude. Like, she looked really pretty on the plane, but she looked like a fucking model on Instagram. And as a dude, my Instagram is pretty ridiculous, right? So, like, already a bad look, but, either way, we're texting back and forth on Instagram for a little, and eventually the conversation got dry. It was like a day or two of just, back and forth, and she was like a real Italian, so her English wasn't great. And eventually the convo just got dry, and so I just didn't respond to, like, I was trying to, like, play it cool almost, right? And, but I wasn't feeling cool because, like, all I could think about was this fucking girl. So, a couple of days goes by. I see something that reminds me of something we were talking about. It's kind of specific, so I don't want to, bring it up. I send her a picture. I'm like, oh, this reminded me of you. I'm thinking of you. Hope you're doing well. And I'm like, oh, she's going to eat this shit up. Like, I'm cooking here, right? And she just never responded. Ghosted. That was that. And because my dumbass asked for her Instagram instead of her number, I get to see her story the next day, which is of a bunch of flowers, and it's a heart, and it's fucking Valentine's Day, of course. We were talking for hours and hours. She had never mentioned anything about a boyfriend or anything like that. And this wasn't my first time being ghosted, right? As a dude growing up right now, it's just like something that happens all the time, in the job market, dating. But this one really had me in my bag because I was ready to bend the knee over here to this girl. I thought this was like the stars aligning, fate shit, right? So this was a couple of weeks ago now, and I've been thinking a lot about ghosting, why it's such a big part of our lives all of a sudden, and how to kind of deal with it, and the shit feelings that it brings up. And this can be applied to not just dating, but applying for jobs even, right? So let's get into it. So, the first couple of days after it happens, I think the initial reaction for me was just to be mad at the girl and kind of direct my anger towards her and be like, why the fuck did she not respond? Like, what's her problem? But the truth is, like, this girl doesn't owe me anything. Like, we were total strangers, and we just happened to be sitting next to each other on a plane, right? And it would be hypocritical for me to be frustrated at her and angry at her because my ass has ghosted girls before, right? There's been a few times where a girl would say something or do something and I'm like, I'm off that. You know what I mean? And obviously this is a fucked up thing to do. And it has me thinking, like, why? Like, why am I, like, what's the behavior behind this? And why is this something our parents never talk to us about, right? And my theory is that ghosting has always been a thing. It just looked different in the past. Like, in the 50s, if you wanted to dead a relationship for whatever reason, you just stopped picking up your phone or writing letters or whatever the fuck they were doing back then, right? And it's the same today. You know, you don't owe anyone anything unless you're married, obviously, right? So my coulda, woulda been Italian babe doesn't owe me a response. So getting angry at her is pointless. And it's different, though. And our parents, I think, never talked to us about this because, you know, let's say it's 1950 and I call her up. She doesn't pick up the phone. I'm just like, damn, that sucks. You know, probably be upset for a little, but got to go back to tending the crops or whatever the fuck, you know, they were doing back then. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Now, she doesn't answer my DM, and the next day I have to see her posting flowers on Valentine's Day, and then after that she's baking cookies, and then after that she's riding a motorcycle, right? It's just like, Jesus Christ. It's a constant reminder of the fumble, and I think that's why it's a lot more painful than it was, you know, even one generation ago, right? So I think, like many problems that we're dealing with today, the phone makes it worse, right? The social media makes it worse. And it's not just dating where we got to deal with this shit, right? Like, what about LinkedIn where I got to apply for 50 jobs in one day? First off, I don't even want the fucking jobs, right? But you don't hear back from any of them. Or maybe you hear back from one saying, we pick someone else, right? But most of them just ghost. And, you know, there's also just ghost jobs, by the way, on LinkedIn. Side note, this is fucking insane and should be illegal for these companies to do. But most of the time, they just pick someone, you know, who has more qualifications than you, and they don't even have the nuts to tell you that they did so, right? They just ghost you. And a big reason ghosting is so prevalent now is because the dating pool that, you know, our parents were in didn't consist of thousands of options a swipe away on the phone, right? You had your social circle, your church or whatever, and that was that. So, you know, I think as a guy or a girl, you're less likely to ghost someone when you have fewer options. That's just human nature, right? And the same goes for these companies. You know, they now have access to thousands of applicants all over the world with all these degrees, certificates, recommendations, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like it puts them in the position to just say, like, fuck this kid. Let's not even tell him that he's not good enough. I saw a tweet the other day that was like, dating right now is going on a first date, both having a great time, but never talking to each other again. And it's so stupid, but it's true. And I've been guilty of this myself. And it's one of the reasons I want to be off the apps, man. Like, not even just the dating apps, the social media apps. Like, these comparisons and the illusion of options these apps provide, it makes getting into relationships a lot harder these days. And, you know, I'm going to sound like a scumbag here, and that's okay. I mean, I think I'm pretty open about the fact that I used to be one, and I'm still working actively on you know, being the best version of myself. But, you know, in the past, I'd be starting to go out with a girl, like, exclusively, and there'd be this little devil on my shoulder reminding me of the other girls that I could be getting. And I've talked to my friends about this, and I have friends who are in relationships. I've seen this a bunch, right? And they all have this false idea because of these apps that, you know, they would have hundreds of girls waiting for them if they left their girlfriend. And most of the time, it's just an illusion created by social media, and it leads to underappreciating your partner who you're actually with and who actually has love for you. And it's just nasty work, right? And to be fair, like, there is another side to this coin that I've noticed with some girls, definitely not all girls, but some girls want guys who have a girlfriend already. Like, it's like because they want something that they've been told they can't have. And this is a weird thing that, you know, there's a whole nother bag of worms that I'm not trying to get into right now. But I did think it's worth mentioning because, you know, maybe it's not 100% illusion, right? Maybe there is some truth there. But, this girl from the plane, the one that I thought was the one, is talking to someone else for sure. And so she ghosted my ass, right? And that's okay, because it wasn't meant to be. And beating myself up about, what could have happened if I had done this or done this, these hypotheticals does nothing but, piss me off. So what's even the point of doing that to myself? It's like, why even put myself through that? So I think at this point, it's obvious. Ghosting feels like shit, right? It's a shit thing to do, and it's a shittier thing to experience. So moving forward, I'm going to do my best to not participate in this ghosting culture, right? But it's funny to think about, like, what the alternative would be. Like, imagine you're texting a girl and maybe you went out once, maybe you haven't gone out yet, and now you're not interested for whatever reason. Like, you just send a text like, hey, I'm over this? Because it's like, damn, I feel like if I got that text, I'd be like, shit. Like, I feel like that would hurt too. I'd almost rather be ghosted than get that text. I don't know. But in all seriousness, I think, what this looks like is just not wasting someone's time and being clear with my intentions. So, instead of talking to a girl just to attention farm, or maybe because I'm attracted, but not in a way that could lead to anything serious, just avoiding that situation altogether. Because, like I said, it feels like shit to get ghosted, and I don't want to ghost people myself, right? So, the next time I inevitably get ghosted, I'll do what I do best and just take it on the chin, Like I said, I think it's dumb to blame it on the person or the employer that ghosted you, because it's just a product of our society, right? And I think it's important to recognize that, because if you don't, it'll just fuck up your self-image, your confidence in yourself, whether that's as a partner or as an employee, right? So it's easy to spiral and think about what you could have done better and, the hypotheticals. But in reality, what's meant to be will be, and that's vice versa, right? So that's my thoughts on the ghosting epidemic that I think we're in right now. Before I end the video, I just wanted to say, YouTube gave me the option to do like a membership program, so I'm working on, that and what that'll look like. I just opened it up, so if any of you guys want to join, I mean, that would mean the world. Obviously, totally optional. Like, there should be no pressure. There is no pressure. Right now it'll probably just look like, earlier video uploads and maybe some extra content, and I'm working on some other things as well. But I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware. If you see that, YouTube just gave me that opportunity. So like I said, no pressure at all. Just you guys watching my videos is enough support for me. But I know a couple people reached out about other ways to support, so I did set that up. Just wanted to let you guys know. But yeah, that's it for me today, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.